Incident 11, Varanasi, October 27th. Mataji with a large party entrained for the village of Surya, near Harzabad Road railway station, which was reached there the next morning. On the journey, Narayan Swami caught a severe cold, and on arrival at the Hazarabad Road, he had a very high fever and breathing trouble. The attending physician diagnosed pneumonia. The Swami, an old man, was bedridden for the next few days, and Mataji would go and see him daily, giving directions about treatment and diet. But lo and behold, on the first evening of the Samyam Vrata, he, at Mataji's suggestion, gave an interesting lecture with a clear voice and with hardly a cough to disturb it. This fairly was an unexpected speedy recovery, to say the least. Incident 12. One day at Surya, when Mataji went round inspecting the preparations for the Samyam Vrata, she saw a long row of hired tape cots lined up in the open, ready to be put into the tents for use of the Vratis. She advised that the cots should be put into the sun and sugar sprinkled on them to make sure that they were free from troublesome insects like bugs. She then related a story from her early life. When she stayed at the Ashtagram with Bolanath, her spiritual husband, she once visited her home at Vijakut. At this time, Mataji was 19 or 20. There were innumerable bedbugs in the cots. Mataji watched the women trying various remedies with very little success, though to get rid of the bugs. So she finally devised her own cure. When the whole family went away on a visit, she put all the cots into the sun and sprinkled plenty of sugar on them. This attracted large black ants, which ate up the eggs and perhaps also the smaller bugs, while the bigger ones fled away. In any case, after 3 days, there was not a single bug left. Incident 13. At the collective midnight meditation that always marks the climax and end of the Samyam Vrata satsang, a Narayan Shila was enthroned on the dais near Mataji's seat. This was an innovation. After the meditation, Mataji said, "In future, whenever this particular sort of Narayan Shila is available, you may perform your Samyam Mahavrata in front of him." This particular Narayan Shila has a story of its own. When on August the 14th, 1965, Mataji on her way from Dehradun to Jodhpur halted in Vrindavan for a day, a man connected with our ashram told her that he had recently found a Narayan Shila on the road while going round the temples of Vrindavan. Although not a Brahmin, only a Brahmin is allowed to worship a Narayan Shila, he had picked it up and taken it with him. It then occurred to him that the raised spot near Mataji's house in the Vrindavan ashram, where 12 sannyasis had planted 12 tulsi shrubs, would be the suitable abode for the Shila. He had therefore buried it in the earth below those plants. Mataji asked him to bring it to her. Some of the people present were of the opinion that it was an ordinary stone, but Mataji had the divine insight, the kayal, that it was a Narayan Shila. She washed and cleaned it with her own hands, and 3 chakras or circular signs were found on the stone. Mataji then gave the Shila to one of the ashram girls and asked her to do puja regularly and offer food to it. Incident 14. After the Samyam Sapta was over, Mataji remained in Surya Hazarbagh for another 8 days. During this period, she used to go on walks in the open fields twice daily. She would sometimes walk into the compounds of neighboring villagers, talk to them, and give them Rama Nama in her own unique way, that is, some kind of japa initiation. She asked, "Which of God's names do you like best?" And they replied, "We like all of them. But which of them do you repeat?" Much to her surprise, they could not answer her question. Mataji stretched out 3 fingers of her right hand and pointed to each of them and said, "This is Rama, This is Krishna, and this is Shiva. Now catch hold of one. The next day she again went to see the villagers and sang Rama Nama to them and made them repeat every line after her. Some of the people became friendly and brought vegetables and fruits and sugar canes from their fields for Mataji, which she distributed. On the last day she went to say goodbye to them, calling them loudly by names until one by one they came out of their homes and bade tearful goodbye to her. Incident 15. Konkal, April 1967. One day a touching little incident took place. An old woman came and to the amusement of the congregation did pranam to an American lady who was sitting near Mataji's empty chair. When towards the end of darshan line the old woman went up to Mataji and caught hold of her feet, which is forbidden, she was severely rebuked by those sitting nearby. To comfort her, Mataji patted her and said, "What a joyful face you have! How simple you are! This is why I could pick you out from the crowd." Mataji then asked her name and address and things about her family. Her name was Simla Devi, and she stayed at Harki Pari in Hardwar. Someone then told Mataji that Simla Devi had bowed to the American lady. At this, Mataji told Simla Devi, "You have done the right thing. There is only Janadharna, none else. To whomever you bow only to him. Even animals and trees and stones, all are he." It then came to light that Simla Devi had fasted all day, as she had decided to eat only after having Mataji's darshan. In the morning she had tried in vain for it. Now at last she had succeeded. Mataji gave her a big papita and a bag full of oranges and said, "You have not taken even a piece of fruit all day. Now go home and eat all of these. You say you have 4 sons, but no daughter. Tell your husband that today, on the New Year's Day, you got a daughter. You see, I am your daughter. A mother never forgets her daughter. Come and see me again." Needless to say, Simla Devi was beaming with happiness and paradoxically moved to tears by Mataji's affection. Incident 16. A young married woman would, under the slightest instigation, go into samadhi, or rather into what people called samadhi. On such occasion she appeared lifeless, her limbs turning cold, and once this happened in Mataji's presence. Mataji at once understood what the matter was with the girl. She whispered a mantra into her ear. And what was the mantra? "You will very soon receive a letter from your husband." Ever since that day, the samadhi of the young woman never occurred again, and her behavior became normal. Incident 17. Here is another incident of a different category altogether. A young man used to have visions of various kinds. He would, for instance, witness Sri Krishna tell Arjuna the Bhagavad Gita. He was profoundly moved by these visions. Tears would constantly stream down his eyes. When he narrated all these to Mataji, she told him, "Don't lose your self-control. Seekers after truth must never be overpowered by anything. Fully conscious and wide awake, with the attitude of a spectator, they must watch everything that happens." Incident 18. One day a married woman came and lamented to Mataji, "Ma, in my home nobody approves of puja, japa, meditation, and the like. My husband, my father-in-law, and all of the rest of the members in the family, including my brother-in-law, are opposed to it. What am I to do?" Mataji said, "You observe so many religious vows in your homes. Don't you keep a fast on Tuesday and fast and do puja all night on Shivaratri?" Will you try to take up the following practice? One day in a month, from morning till night, regard everyone as a manifestation of God. Your husband, your father-in-law, and brother-in-law, consider them to be God in different guises. That day, look upon your children as child Krishna and Kumari Devi. Whoever comes to your house, be he a guest, a beggar, or a hawker, treat him as a form of Narayan. If on that day you are visited by any sorrow or trouble, welcome them as messengers of the Lord. By continuing with this practice, you will find circumstances becoming normal and favorable to the worship of God. First of all, do this once every month, then once a week, and you will observe that the happiness you feel on that day will influence all the rest of the week. Everyone should advance along one particular line. He who takes the path trodden by the lover of God will release him as the blissful embodiment of supreme love. He who takes the path of knowledge will release him as knowledge itself, as the formless Brahman. Just as one and the same individual is son, husband, and father, so the one Brahman is being, consciousness, bliss, Sat Chit Ananda. From whichever angle a person approaches God, he will assuredly find him, the One. If he progresses by yoga, he will realize eternal union. He will have to go beyond the polarity of union and separation. And in the final attainment, the question of eternal and non-eternal, of beyond and not beyond, does not exist. Incident 19. My husband's weak health was a matter of constant worry to me. With a view to invoking Mother's grace, I used to worship her day and night for my husband's speedy recovery. In the meantime, I was asked by someone to pray directly before Mataji for his health. It was the year 1959 that I made up my mind to beg Mataji to cure my husband. Luckily, Mataji came to Itawa in February 1960, and I decided to go and see her there. It was my first private visit to her. I quietly approached her as a petitioner, but no sooner did I enter the room than both the manner and content of all that I wanted to say completely vanished from my mind. To my utter surprise, I found that the mental fog in which I had been enveloped dissolved at the radiant smile of Ma. On her asking me about my problem, I found myself speechless. Somehow I regained my original composure and told her that I wanted to see my husband cured of a serious disease he was suffering from. Ma, with her usual ineffable, sweet voice, advised me to have faith in God and pray to Him for my husband. Although there was nothing new in her advice, yet her words were spoken in such a sympathetic tone that I had the experience of drinking in the Mother's infinite compassion, which was flowing freely from her lustrous eyes. Soon I reached the state of oneness where Ma was mine and I was hers completely. It made me feel as if Mataji had yielded to my wish and my husband was shortly after completely cured. Thereafter, I would go nowhere else for his treatment. Incident 20. Vrindavan, November 1967. During the Matri Satsang, the last half hour of the evening session of each day of the Samyam Saptaha, Mataji sometimes replied to questions and sometimes related interesting incidents from her life. The first 3 days, she gave part of her time to Kapandraji, the well-known witty expounder of the Ramayana, who kept everyone amused and relaxed after the many serious and thought-provoking discourses of the day. On the 11th night, Kapandraji left for Delhi and promised to return on the 13th, but he did not come. On the 14th night, at the end of the program, he suddenly emerged out of the crowd. Although Mataji requested him to have his meal and take rest as he had just arrived, he insisted on ascending the dais. He then related that when he and 5 other persons had left for Delhi by jeep at midnight of the 11th, he himself drove. As he was rather sleepy, the jeep got out of control and fell into a ravine that was 50 feet deep. However, as if by miracle, nobody was hurt, and even the jeep remained intact, so that they could proceed to their destination. His daughter began to shriek with fear and then shouted, "Ma has come." Papandrashi said, "Yes, Ma is here." He could see her distinctly standing in front of him, only she seemed much taller than usual. After hearing this, Mataji said, "But how did you lift the jeep out of the abyss?" Kapandraji said, "You yourself lifted the wheels of the jeep. I saw it clearly. You saved us. You did everything." And Mataji said, "There is only one. God saved you. Since you have faith in this little girl, he appeared to you in her shape to save you." Incident 21. Vrindavan, December 1966. One day in the evening when Mataji came out for letting people have her darshan, 2 gentlemen arrived from outside, one a physician, the other a former politician. After some time, Mataji asked everyone to disperse as she wanted to talk to her guests in private. After the interview, the physician gentleman narrated the following incidents connected with Mataji. "I was very skeptical at first, and to begin with came to confound Mataji with difficult questions. But she took me for a drive, and on the way all my problems dissolved as if by miracle. Another time I brought with me a Swami who had no faith at all in her. He had devoted 3 whole days in formulating 7 questions, which he felt certain she would be unable to answer. When we arrived, Mataji asked me to accompany her on a drive for 10 minutes, and I thought, of course, this is how she is going to evade the Swami. But 10 minutes later, she told me she had to return in order to keep her appointment with the Swami. "Do you want to talk to me alone or in public?" she asked him. "In public," he said, and then put his first question, to which he received an appropriate answer, then the second and the third, and every time Mataji replied without any hesitation whatsoever. Finally, the Swami said, "I humbly beg your pardon for having doubted you. With great care, working for 3 whole days, I prepared these 7 questions. I have nothing more to ask, for you have already answered all the questions." And ever since, the Swami is one of her devoted followers.